Okay, 85 seconds to midnight. That is the closest we have ever been, and I'm going to say to the end of the world. You've just heard the threats we face: nuclear arsenals growing, climate records shattering, biological risks multiplying, artificial intelligence racing ahead of our ability to govern it. These are new triggers on top of the old problems which have been there, which the Sustainable Development Goals tried to address. All of that, of course, now is a dream, and it's gotten much worse. But I want to talk about something that makes all these threats even harder to address. The crisis beneath all the crisis, which you just saw, which I pointed out at the opening of the 80th UN General Assembly. We are living through an information Armageddon. That's brought about by the technology that rules our lives, from social media to generative AI. None of that tech is anchored in facts. Your chatbot is nothing but a probabilistic machine. Even as the tech moves from the attention economy to now targeting intimacy, human beings, we have been commodified by a predatory and extractive industry. Here are the three sentences I've said over and over since 2016. Without facts, you can't have truth. Without truth, you can't have trust. Without these three, we have no shared reality. We can't have journalism. We can't have democracy. The radical collaboration this moment demands becomes impossible. Think of shared facts as the operating system of collective action. Democracy runs on it. Diplomacy runs on it. Science runs on it. You corrupt that operating system, and every application fails. Climate negotiations fail. Arms control fails. Pandemic response fails. Not because we lack solutions, but because we can no longer agree on the problems. And the operating system has been corrupted deliberately, systematically, for profit. The platforms that mediate our information were built on an extractive and predatory model. They turned our attention into a commodity and our outrage into their business model. At the Nobel lecture, I called it toxic sludge. This brings out the worst of humanity. They don't connect us, they divide us. And in that division, they've enabled the collapse of cooperation and the rise of illiberal leaders who exploit chaos. As of last year, VDEM pointed out that 72% of the world is now under authoritarian rule. In my country, the Philippines, we lived through this. Disinformation enabled a brutal drug war. It attacked journalists. When I was first arrested in 2019, our top newspaper's headline adapted the Martin Niemöller quote, right? The headline was, "First, they came for the journalists. We don't know what happened next." Well, today, I've won 10 of the 11 criminal charges, the cases filed against me. I joke that the Philippines has now moved from hell to purgatory, and many of you in the West are now moving to hell. Because what happened in my country didn't stay there. That playbook has spread across the world. Last week in Davos, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney said this best: "We are in the middle of a rupture, not a transition. The old order is not coming back, and that rupture was accelerated by the destruction of our public information ecosystem. We can't solve problems we can't agree exist. We can't cooperate across borders when we can't share the same facts." Now add generative AI, the chatbots that threaten to accelerate this chaos exponentially, floods of synthetic disinformation at near zero cost, AI slop victimizing millions in scams, supercharging the dysfunction in our information ecosystem. Oh, yes, and killing our environment because of the resources it needs to run. But we're witnessing something more dangerous: the fusion of state power with the tech oligarchy. The men who control the platforms that shape what billions believe have merged with the men who control governments and militaries. Might makes right is the new operating principle, and they have the tools to manufacture consent or to simply drown out dissent. Just last week, the Nerve released research on how controlling the information ecosystem cements power. The title is Narrative Warfare and the Breakdown of Reality. It showed how in less than a year, what started as a meme became state policy, and then kinetic reality in Venezuela. It shows a three-stage funnel. Narrative warfare fragments the shared reality, enabling the dismantling of institutions, clearing the path for corruption and kleptocracy. What happened in Venezuela? Greenland threatened, Minneapolis militarized, wars multiplying, not ending. This is what becomes possible when the battle for information integrity is lost. And while this happens, the clock keeps ticking. Nuclear arsenals grow while arms control collapses. Climate records shatter while the US wages war on renewable energy. The very cooperation we need to survive on AI, on pandemics, on the planet becomes impossible. 85 seconds to midnight. It is ticking, but it can be turned back. Can't leave you depressed. Now is the time to act, right? We need technology platforms redesigned around human rights, not engagement metrics. We need journalism funded as critical infrastructure. We need AI governance that prioritizes safety over speed. And we need middle power, civil society, and citizens acting together because, as Canada pointed out, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. Information integrity is the mother of all battles because you can't run democracy on a corrupted operating system. You can't turn back the doomsday clock when half the world doesn't believe these problems even exist. But each of you watching, what can you do? You can do a lot because narrative warfare targets the cellular level of a democracy. That's each of us, the citizens. We think three buckets: technology, journalism, and community. We need to demand better from these extractive and predatory tech companies and join public interest tech like our Matrix Protocol chat app. It's open source, federated, end-to-end encrypted. Support independent journalism and build communities of action. At the worst of times, we in Rappler turned to our communities. Our citizens demanded better. And today, the reporting of journalists in the Philippines, working with civil society, has helped put our former president, the guy who tried to put me in jail, Rodrigo Duterte, he's now in jail at The Hague, facing charges of crimes against humanity. It took a whole of society approach. The destruction has happened. We're standing on the rubble of the world that was. Now it's time to create, to build the world we want that is more compassionate, more equal, more sustainable. 85 seconds to midnight. You know, the question now is not whether we can, the question is whether you will. What are you willing to sacrifice for the truth? Because the time to act is now. Thank you.